Hello, beautiful botanical biohackers. Today we're going to explore an herbal poultice that is amazing for wandering pain and for pain that is kind of fixed and associated with gut dysbiosis, molds, and mycotoxins. It's also, God, it's just mind-blowingly easy. And I learned about it from a busy clinic in Sichuan. In the late summers in Chengdu, I would often get a runny nose that just wouldn't go away. And I would try all of the over the counter medications that were supposed to be so effective for common colds. All of the herbal formulas that were there, the yin chao san, huoxiang zheng qi, a lot of these kind of therapies, which were supposed to work, and they might work for about 10 minutes. I tried various types of acupuncture, and again, it was at best looking at about 10 to 30 minutes of effectiveness before just going back to feeling miserable. Then I found this clinic, and they specialized in wind dampness, is what they call it. And this is also the Chinese word for arthritis. So I went in there with a cold, and the head doctor had me lie down, and he said that he was from Chengdu TCM Medical School. He had studied acupuncture, and now he had this clinic where he actually didn't use acupuncture all that much. So I laid down face down, and then he did a little bit of massage on the upper back. Immediately afterwards, set the bones in the upper neck, and then he used an herbal bag that was very hot. And he would rub that over my upper back, and immediately it was knocked out, and then I was good for weeks on end. And I asked him, of course, so what's in that bag? And he just kind of said, oh, it's a Chinese herbal mixture. Over the years, I would go back again and again. Anytime that a cold would start to creep up and I didn't want to be out of work and low on productivity, I'd go there and, generally you can get more information from somebody's employees, especially if they're a little bit tired than you can the owner. So I would ask some of the employees, hey, what's in the herbal bag? And they would just say, Chinese herbs. And I would say, yeah, for example, which Chinese herbs? And they were like, I don't know. So, okay, fine. It's a proprietary formula, whatever. I wasn't going to, pry that much. I wanted to respect their intellectual property. Then it was finally time for me to head back to the United States. And I said to the owner, look, I want to help people back in the US. I studied Chinese medicine myself. I'm never going to be your competition. And he finally said, all right, come here. And he opened the bag. And he said, here it is. It's 50% salt. And the salt was there just to retain the temperature. The salt bags were put into a wok that was filled with sand, and that would heat up. So he said you could use an oven or a microwave. It really didn't matter. The important thing was that the salt was getting hot. I said, okay, great. And what about the herbs? Because all I see there is Sichuan peppercorn. And he said, that's it. It's good quality Sichuan peppercorn and salt. The volatile oils are getting in. They're killing the damp. And I said, well, what about wind? I used the Shanghanlun formulas that are supposed to work. And what he told me was that people don't understand dampness. If you have wind dampness, you need to address the dampness, especially in late summer, especially in an area where there's a lot of dampness, and especially with modern diets, including so much more dampness. And in Sichuan, there's just a lot of mold and fungal exposure everywhere. So he said, you can go with the classical understanding and say, okay, this person's chilled. But is that chill the same thing, or is it the result of dampness which is causing that cold? And this is a mentality I didn't understand. And he said because he understood it deeper than I did, he was able to use a very simple therapy and get extraordinary results with it. When I would go there and get my cold taken care of, there were a lot of older people who were swearing by the herb bags. They were buying them and taking them home, and they would use them on their shoulder or on the neck, whatever. And it was knocking out chronic pain. So I got back to the US and I thought, okay, this is great. I know that this is good for wind damp type pain. So this is going to be the kind of pains that are affected by mold and mycotoxins. So immediately I started treating people with fibromyalgia using these bags for stage 1. Stage 1 is where we have wind and dampness that are combined, and this is marked by traveling pain and pain that is kind of heavy in the body. Now, for people who have had long-term gut dysbiosis, as you find with rheumatoid arthritis, as you find with fibromyalgia, you really can't use strong internal herbs because their guts just aren't going to absorb it so well. So I would start with this herbal bag along the upper neck, have them do some self-neck massage to really get that lymphatic fluid moving, and then a breathing exercise, which I'll describe right now. Basically, you bring your chin down to your chest, and you don't force it, you just kind of let it hang. Now, if you're bedridden, you can do this just by propping your head up with a pillow. Then you breathe up gently into the upper chest so that it stretches the neck. And that stretch in the neck muscles is very important. Then you lightly hold the breath. So you don't want to be forcing it, but you're just holding the breath to get the intermittent hypoxia and increased nitric oxide, which is going to kill mold. And at the sweet spots, it's going to be removing mycotoxins, mold toxins from the body. Then, after holding the breath a little bit, if you really want to increase the effect, you exhale slowly through the nose, making a humming sound. Study in, I believe it was Sweden, demonstrated that by humming, nasal humming, can increase nitric oxide, and that is an antibacterial and antifungal agent. So having this nitric oxide at the right level really served to enhance what we call wei qi, or protective qi, to protect the body. When I combine this breathing method with the herb packet, which is just Sichuan peppercorns and salt, people's wandering pain, instead of it taking maybe 3 weeks to go away, was going away in a few days. And then I could go right to the heavy pain and then to the more electric and burning pain, because people who are in states of chronic pain, they often have many types of pain from many different root causes that have all kind of come together. But in terms of an order of operations, you need to protect the immune system first. And that's what these Sichuan peppercorn bags do. They also indirectly are working to kill pain by way of their effect on mold and bacteria. And they do have an analgesic effect just topically. So I'm telling you this knowing full well that this is this clinic in Sichuan, this is their intellectual property, right? And I wanted to respect that. However, they've been out of business now for a few years, and it wasn't because they were doing poorly. The owner of the clinic actually got a better job. So it's been a good 5 to 8 years. It's been more like 10 years that he hasn't been using this, and it hasn't been the basis of his clinic as his, secret method. So with respect to that, I want to balance respecting his secrets and his intellectual property with helping as many people as possible. So if it was the case where he was setting up a chain of clinics, I would respect that and keep his secrets his own. However, since he's not, and he's on to bigger and better things, hey, this is something that we can all know and benefit from. It's also not a tremendous secret in Sichuan to use Sichuan peppercorns. My mother-in-law will take Sichuan peppercorns from the Tibetan plateau. She puts them in oil and then allows them to steep. I guess the Chinese word is pao. So they steep for a few weeks to a month. Then she takes that oil and then she spreads it on her knees and sometimes on her shoulders. So she's been using that for quite some time and really enjoys it. Coincidentally, she's also started to use CBD oil from Good Life Botanicals, Stacy Donaldson's company. She's using that on her wrist and has found that it works for certain types of pains, and especially when it's combined with the Sichuan peppercorn, she really enjoys that. So Sichuan peppercorn, it's great as a spice in food, and to use for aches and pains, it is very valuable to make into these sort of herbal poultices. If you want to source C-grade Sichuan peppercorn, which is just kind of middle of the road, but it's pretty decent, there's plenty on Amazon. And if you find a botanical biohacking distributor, you'll be able to find the really high quality from the Tibetan Plateau. Now, what is the difference with the really high quality or the medium quality? If you're looking to make a product, if you're looking to make an ointment that isn't requiring lots of bulk and lots of waste, then you're going to want to go with the higher volatile oil counts. For general cooking, C grade works just fine. Most people use it. If you're looking to make something that is, say, tingling and vibrating without being so numbing, then again, you're going to want to go for the higher quality as well. Generally speaking, people cook with C grade. If you're looking for something a little better, that's what you're looking at, B and A grade. A grade, to be honest, it's mainly aesthetic. So they're just big and they look absolutely gorgeous. High-end restaurants use these. They're also gifted. They're used as really high-end gifts. But in terms of the volatile oil activity, A and B grade are pretty similar. Now, here's the way that I make them at home. I'll just take a cloth. I think they're called like cheesecloth or flour sacks. They have this flour sack cloth that seems to work just fine. And what I'll do is basically I just put it on the table. I'll add salt and then Sichuan peppercorns so that the salt is kind of going to wrap the Sichuan peppercorns. Then I toss that in the oven, let it get nice and toasty. Then I'll take it out, and then the cloth that's wrapping it, I might tie that up with something. So you can also use a muslin bag. I think that would work just fine. And then you can use this to wipe it on the neck, and you can also use this as a pillow insert. So let's say you've got a kid with allergies, and the allergies started as a result of being exposed to dampness or mold. For me, that was exactly how my allergies started on the Oregon coast. I was exposed to mold and mildew, and as a result got a really high fever. After that, I was always a little more susceptible to mold and mildew. For these type of cases, if I feel like, oh, something's just hitting me, I might use an herbal poultice, do the qigong, do a neck wipe, and then toss it in my pillow, wake up, no problems. So, as something that is, it's so available and so easy to use, I just feel like more people should know about that. So Sichuan peppercorn wrapped in salt, heat it up, you're good to go. This isn't going to be good for every type of pain, but for wandering pain and fixed pain that is heavy, absolutely miraculous. Thank you so much for listening to the Botanical Biohacking Podcast. I am your 5'10" host, Dr. Andrew Miles.